Chapter 596. The people of diabolism all had their own thoughts. In fact, the entire lineage had never been monolithic. Not everyone wanted to avenge those who died in the 9 Heavenly Mountain Diabolism Alliance. Therefore, Wei Shuya let Chu Xiu lead these people and sort them out. Compared to Tao Gongwang's many thoughts, Luo Sansong's thoughts were much simpler. Luo Sansong sneered and said, "Tao Gongwang, you have the most trivial matters. Junior? What's wrong with Junior? Strictly speaking, my seniority is still lower than yours. Why you don't accept me? Why don't we have a fight?" Tao Gongwang was speechless by Luo Sansong's infuriation. He snorted and said, "This is not a matter of seniority. My Yinma lineage has been hiding in the dark for so many years. In the end, Senior Wei let a junior with little experience lead us to provoke the righteous path. Have you considered the danger of this matter?" Luo Sansong waved his hand and snorted, "Consider my ass. I don't care if it's the righteous path or the diabolism. As long as that kid is strong enough, I will kill whoever he asks me to kill. On the other hand, if that kid is not my match, then he can't control who I want to kill." Tao Gongwang had no way to deal with Luo Sansong, so he turned his gaze to Zhao Qingping. Compared to the two of them, Zhao Qingping was much more normal. Zhao Qingping was a middle-aged man in a black robe with a cold expression. When the others began to argue, he sat there alone without saying a word. At this time, seeing Tao Gongwang's gaze, Zhao Qingping just said lightly, "I don't know Lin Yi, and I don't know whether it's good or bad for my Yinma lineage to take the initiative to attack those righteous path sections. I only know that this matter was ordered by Senior Wei. Lin Yi was also chosen by Senior Wei. I only believe in Senior Wei. I believe that Senior Wei will not be wrong." Compared to Tao Gongwang and Luo Santong, Zhao Qingping was from the orthodox diabolism. In the past, his ancestors followed Wei Shuya to the 9 Heavenly Mountain, but they were killed in that battle. Zhao Qingping's lineage had always been protected by Wei Shuya. Therefore, no matter what Wei Shuya said, Zhao Qingping would do as he was told. To him, Wei Shuya was no different from his patriarch. Seeing Zhao Qingping's attitude, Tao Gongwang stopped talking nonsense with him. Instead, he turned his gaze to the others and discussed the plan with them. Although this group of people could be considered part of the Hidden Devil clan, in reality, they all had their own thoughts. Some of it was because of their personalities, like Luo Sansong. But there were also many people like Tao Gongwang who had their own plans. Just when everyone was discussing enthusiastically, the door was pushed open, and Chu Wuji walked in with Chu Xiu, who had already put on a mask. The noisy lobby instantly quietened down. Chu Wuji's prestige was quite great in the Yinma clan. He was the martial arts master who was closest to the true fire spirit refinement realm. Even the arrogant Luo Sansong did not dare to disrespect him. Chu Wuji looked around and said indifferently, "I'm sure everyone knows why Senior Wei has gathered all of you here. This is Lin Yi, a young talent of my Yinma clan. I won't care about what happens next. Leave it to Lin Yi to handle. You guys can continue talking." After saying that, Chu Wuji turned around and left, leaving Chu Xiu alone. Although Wei Shuya did not say that it was a test, in Chu Wuji's opinion, it was actually the first test for Chu Xiu. If he could not even deal with this group of guys, Chu Xiu was not worthy of his current position. Seeing that Chu Wuji had left so decisively, everyone present was stunned. Then, they whispered to each other. Some of them even secretly discussed something through voice transmission. They did not show any respect for Chu Xiu. There were many arrogant and unruly people in the Diabolism clan. Not to mention that Chu Xiu was not a martial arts master, and did not have that many qualifications. Even if Chu Xiu became a martial arts master, these people might not be convinced. They had been so respectful to Chu Wuji previously because of the reputation and prestige that Chu Wuji had accumulated in the Yinma clan over the past few decades. As for Chu Xiu, his reputation in the Jianghu and his ranking on the Longhu list were not enough to completely suppress the Diabolism martial artists present. Looking at everyone present, Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "Everyone, I think you should have heard of my name, Lin Yi." Hearing this, someone immediately sneered in a low voice. There was a hint of disdain in their tone. They had heard of Lin Yi's name, but Lin Yi had said it right in front of them. He was a little too arrogant. However, Chu Xiu then said indifferently, "Of course, it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of it. Now that you've heard of it, please don't forget it. I don't think I need to repeat why Senior Wei Shuya gathered all of you here. What's going to happen next is actually very simple. I don't need you to use your brains. All you need to do is use your knives to kill. You'll kill whoever I say. It's very simple, isn't it?" As his words rang out, a sliver of dissatisfaction appeared on everyone's faces. Wasn't this Lin Yi a little too arrogant? Although they had to admit that Lin Yi was indeed powerful, and had even killed the martial arts grandmaster Zhen Yangzi of the Chunyang Dao sect, their seniority was obvious. Most of the people present were more experienced, and had a higher seniority than Lin Yi. Lin Yi did not even say anything modest. Instead, he directly spoke in such a commanding tone. If this wasn't arrogance, then what was? Gongwang sneered in his heart when he saw Chu Xiu's attitude. Previously, he had thought that Lin Yi was someone special. Since he was ranked third on the Longhu list, he would definitely not be that bad. Now, it seemed that Lin Yi's strength aside, he was arrogant and brainless. There was no need to worry about him. Tao Gongwang stepped forward and coughed. "Young friend Lin, I'm 1 generation older than you, so it's not wrong for me to call you young friend. It's true that Senior Wei Shuya called all of us here, and told us that it's not wrong to listen to your instructions this time. However, this doesn't mean that we have to hand over our lives to you. Young friend Lin, are you clear about the current situation of the Yinma clan? If you rashly bring us to the righteous sects to cause trouble, we'll be in danger once the top forces of the righteous sects intervene. The Yinma clan has been keeping a low profile for so long. Even if Senior Wei Shuya decides to take action against the righteous sects, he has to wait for a long-term plan before taking action. He shouldn't act rashly now." Tao Gongwang was a wily old fox in the Jianghu. He was quite good at scheming and scheming. On the surface, he did not directly refute Wei Shuya's words, but he was persuading Chu Xiu to take a long-term plan. As for how long this long-term plan would take, it was not certain. When they discussed until Lin Yi was punished by Lord Wei Shuya because of his incompetence, his goal would be achieved for the time being. This was an overt plot. If Lin Yi agreed, he could stall for time. If Chu Xiu did not agree, he would definitely be resisted by most of the martial artists present. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and looked at Tao Gongwang. "In that case, you don't want to avenge those seniors who sacrificed for the 9 Heavenly Mountain Demon Dao Alliance back then?" Tao Gongwang hurriedly said, "Don't talk nonsense. Everyone here can testify that I've never said such a thing. You didn't say it, but that's what you think in your heart." Chu Xiu coldly snorted and said, "Tao Gongwang, I know you. In the past, you were almost killed by Zhang Qingzhen's 5 Thunders technique in West Chu. You escaped from Zhang Qingzhen's hands, but you were also chased by the Celestial Master Mansion. It was the Yinma clan that took you in. For people like you, if it wasn't for the Yinma clan's protection, you would have already been killed by others. How could you have the chance to talk nonsense here? The Yinma clan has done you a favor, but now you are making excuses and refusing to do things for the Yinma clan. You are ungrateful. Also, who are you calling little friend? Do you have the qualifications to call me little friend? Ridiculous. An ungrateful idiot who doesn't know the meaning of the word is useless. You only know how to rely on the big tree of the Yinma clan to seek protection. What's the use of a stupid insect like you?" As Chu Xiu's last word fell, a powerful and shocking spiritual power instantly burst out. Tao Gongwang was worthy of being an old man who had been in the Jianghu for a long time. The moment Chu Xiu's spiritual power burst out, he had already sensed the danger. He immediately released a large number of poisonous insects, but they didn't rush towards Chu Xiu. Instead, they protected his body. However, as Chu Xiu's soul-suppressing Hades song was displayed, the spiritual power formed ripples. Every time the primordial spirit attacked, a large number of poisonous insects would fall to the ground. Almost in an instant, there was already a blank space in front of Tao Gongwang. Even he himself was attacked by the soul-suppressing Hades song. There was a sharp pain in his head, as if his soul was about to be shattered. Before Tao Gongwang could cry out in pain, Chu Xiu took a step forward and appeared in front of Tao Gongwang almost instantly. One hand was already on Tao Gongwang's neck. Cold demonic qi instantly burst out and sealed Tao Gongwang's meridians. There was a look of horror in Tao Gongwang's eyes. The others didn't expect that Lin Yi would actually attack him. It was simply unreasonable. Just as they wanted to dissuade Chu Xiu, and Tao Gongwang also wanted to open his mouth to beg for mercy, the demonic qi in Chu Xiu's hand burst out. He directly crushed Tao Gongwang's neck and threw him to the ground as if he was throwing a dead dog. Everyone present looked at Tao Gongwang's corpse with a look of disbelief in their eyes. Tao Gongwang died just like that? Lin Yi was actually so daring to kill someone as soon as he came up. Chapter 597. Tao Gongwang's death was actually very unjust. Although his strength was far inferior to Chu Xiu's, he had many evil poisonous insects on him. These things were his trump cards. Although he did not dare to say that he could defeat Chu Xiu, he could at least guarantee that he could last a few rounds in the hands of Chu Xiu. In the past, Tao Gongwang was able to escape from the hands of Zhang Qingjin. This was actually enough to prove Tao Gongwang's strength. However, Tao Gongwang did not expect that Chu Xiu would actually have the intention to kill him. They were both from the hidden devil lineage. It was fine if Chu Xiu made a move in public, but he actually dared to kill him directly. Tao Gongwang did not expect this, nor did the others. Therefore he died. He died a very unjust death. He was strangled before he could use his trump cards. Chu Xiu looked at the surrounding demonic Dao cultivators. Some were furious, some were at a loss, and some were waiting to watch a good show. He said indifferently, "One cannot forget one's roots. Even if we are people of the demonic Dao, we still need to know what is morality and what is kindness. All these years, you have been protected by the hidden devil lineage. You have preserved your strength and lives. Now that we need to use your strength, you are here to make excuses. If this is not ungrateful, then what is? The hidden devil lineage does not need useless trash. We do not need ungrateful stupid insects. You have seen Tao Gongwang's fate. Do you want to be an ungrateful stupid insect and be cleaned up like trash? Or follow me to take revenge for the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance? Choose for yourself." Some of the martial artists present looked a little angry. Some of them were similar to Tao Gongwang. They all joined the hidden devil lineage later. These people did not have much sense of belonging to the hidden devil lineage. Chu Xiu had used such a violent method to kill Tao Gongwang and threaten them. This made them feel very uncomfortable. They didn't believe that Lin Yi could really kill all of them. However, Chu Xiu paused and said, "Of course it's not that I don't want to give you a chance. Revenge can't be forced. As long as you're not like that stupid worm Tao Gongwang, who is obviously protected by the Yinma clan, but still spouts nonsense and shakes the army's morale. Now if you want to withdraw or leave, it's up to you. I'll report it to Senior Wei Shuya. From now on, you're no longer members of the Yinma clan." Chu Xiu's words were almost the same as what Wei Shuya had just said to him. It seemed to be a multiple-choice question, but in fact he had no choice at all. The people who were still filled with righteous indignation instantly quieted down. Even if a few of them were moved, they held back when they saw that no one made a sound in the end. Just as Chu Xiu said, even the Yinma clan hated those ungrateful villains. If they left today, they would be branded with the image of an ungrateful, two-faced villain. They were already not tolerated by the righteous martial world. If they left the Yinma clan now, they could only go to the Bright Demon clan. But as long as their actions were spread out, even the Bright Demon clan would not accept them as disciples. The relationship between the sect and the disciples was mutual. The sect provided shelter and space for you to grow. In the future, they also hoped that you could protect the sect and other disciples in return. Now that this group of people had done such a thing, one could imagine what others would think of them. Moreover, they didn't think that even if they admitted that they were ungrateful and cowardly, the Yinma clan would let them go. With their strength, they had already seen many secrets of the Yinma clan, such as this secret land. If they chose to leave now, could the Yinma clan rest assured that they would keep the secret? Only the dead could keep secrets the best. Looking at the people around him, Chu Xiu said lightly, "What? No one wants to leave? If anyone dares to disobey orders next time, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." With that, Chu Xiu glanced at Tao Gongwang on the ground. Obviously, this was the end. And don't feel wronged. You joined the Inma clan, but you didn't directly enter the Phaseless Demon Sect, the Scarlet Demon Sect, and other sects that belong to the Inma clan. Although you have some freedom, you naturally won't get the treatment in the sect. There are many people like you. Senior Chu Wuji who just went out, he was born like you, but in the end he became a martial Dao Grandmaster, an expert of the Inma clan. But think about it, how many of you have the confidence to reach the level of Senior Chu? Senior Chu could reach this stage without relying on anything else, but all of you can't. This time, Senior Wei gathered all of you to avenge the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance, not to send you to your deaths. This is a chance for you to display yourselves. Who can stand out, and who can continue to remain where they are. There are people watching from above. With that said, the anger of the people present dissipated by more than half. What was left was thinking. Indeed, they had joined the Inma clan for a long time. Although they had received protection, in reality, there were only a few of them who could stand out. Now that the opportunity had come, although there was a certain risk, there were also gains, especially to gain a good impression from Senior Wei. At this moment, Luo Sansong suddenly walked out with his ghost beheading knife and laughed loudly. You're quite good at talking. I can't win against you. I only believe in the knife in my hand. Let's have a few moves. If you defeat me, no matter if you're a senior or a junior, you're the boss. If you lose, I'll go with you. After all, when I was being chased by those aristocratic families, it was the Inma clan that saved me. I'm not an ungrateful old thing like Tao Gongwang. Although Chu Xiu had killed Tao Gongwang with one move just now, no one present could see Chu Xiu's true strength. This was because Chu Xiu's attack was too sudden. Although it was a head-on attack, everyone present, including Tao Gongwang, did not expect that Chu Xiu would publicly use a killer on such an occasion. Therefore, Chu Xiu's attack could be considered a sneak attack. Tao Gongwang did not even use half of his strength before he was crushed to death by Chu Xiu. Therefore, Tao Gongwang's death this time was somewhat unjust. Not only Luo Sansong, but the others also wanted to see Lin Ye's true strength in a head-on attack. Although they had already seen the information on the Longhu list, and knew that Lin Yi was very strong, and even had the power to kill a martial Dao Grandmaster, seeing was believing. After all, they had not seen it with their own eyes, so they were still somewhat skeptical. Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "All right, make your move." Luo Sansong said in surprise, "Right here? If I destroy this hall and Senior Wei scolds me, it will have nothing to do with me." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Don't worry, it can be settled in a few moves. It won't be damaged." Luo Sansong snorted coldly and said, "Arrogant." Although he had to admit that Lin Yi was very famous in the Jianghu and was most likely very strong, he did not believe that Lin Yi would be able to defeat him in a few moves. Although he had challenged Lin Yi this time, he did not believe that Lin Yi could defeat him in a few moves. However, since Lin Yi had said so, he did not stand on ceremony. The ghost-headed beheading blade in Luo Sansong's hand surged with a blood-red light, and even his eyes turned blood-red in an instant. As the blade slashed down, the blood chi and killing intent surged, and a boundless ferocious aura bloomed. There was even a vague demon's howl in the blade momentum. It had to be said that Luo Sansong was not weak. He was definitely considered an expert among those at the unity of heaven and man realm. There were not many warriors of the same level who could block his blade. However, no matter how strong Luo Sansong was, his strength had not surpassed the scope of the unity of heaven and man realm. As for Chu Xiu, there were not many warriors of the same level as him who could be considered an opponent. His opponents had even become those martial Dao masters. As the blade momentum slashed down, Chu Xiu's expression did not change. However, there was a mysterious starlight flowing in his eyes. Given Chu Xiu's current mind power, when he used the heaven's sun gazing at air skill, a warrior of Luo Sansong's strength had no secrets to speak of in front of him. Chu Xiu could see every change in his moves clearly. Just as the saber aura was about to reach him, Chu Xiu punched out with a punch that contained boundless blood chi. Vast blood chi and killing intent swept out, bringing with it an indomitable and powerful might as it descended. However, there was a strange rhythm in the fist's momentum. As the fist grew closer and closer, Chu Xiu's selfless killing fist actually triggered the momentum of Luo Sansong's blade, causing the power of his blade to become unstable. It started to jump, and there was even a backlash. Luo Sansong had never seen such a strange situation. It was clearly his blade, but there was still a backfire. Was this his power or Lin Ye's? Why did the other party know his power better than he did? Luo Sansong no longer dared to continue with the power backfire. If he continued with the blade, it would hurt both him and Luo Sansong. Hence, at the critical moment, Luo Sansong directly withdrew his blade to defend himself. Chu Xiu's selfless killing fist blasted on Luo Sansong's blade, and immediately made a loud sound. Luo Sansong's expression suddenly changed when he sensed the powerful force. He could not help but retreat rapidly. When his feet landed, a hole immediately appeared on the ground. After retreating dozens of steps, Luo Sansong had already retreated to the back of the hall. Chu Xiu performed a hand seal and displayed the demon Buddha of massacre. The evil blood Buddha held a ferocious blood blade and slashed down with the blade. The fierce blood chi soared into the sky. Luo Sansong's blade just now paled in comparison to Chu Xiu's demon Buddha of massacre. Seeing the demon Buddha of massacre's blade attack, Luo Sansong's eyes widened. The power shocked him so much that he was even ready to burn his blood essence to resist. In the end, Chu Xiu's blade did not completely fall. Instead, when it fell halfway, the chi and blood within it directly dissipated, and the demon Buddha of massacre also gradually disappeared. Luo Sansong put down his blade, no longer as arrogant as before. He cupped his hands at Chu Xiu and said with a bitter smile, "Greetings, Lord. I lost and I admit my defeat." Chapter 598. Luo Sansong told Chu Xiu that he accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. This was not perfunctory, but the truth. He had already seen the power of the slaughtered demon Buddha form. It was shockingly powerful. However, in the end, Chu Xiu was able to forcefully retract his attack, as if it was a piece of cake. This was 10 or even 100 times more difficult than slashing out that attack. The way Luo Sansong addressed Chu Xiu as Lord convinced him. Although Chu Xiu was much younger than him, for a person like him, strength was the only rule. As long as Chu Xiu's strength was stronger than his, then everything would be fine. At this time, Zhao Qingping, who had been silent all this while, also stood up. He cupped his hands respectfully towards Chu Xiu and said, "Greetings, Lord." Zhao Qingping's thoughts were very simple. Wei Shuya wanted to take revenge for the 9 Heavenly Mountain Demon Dao Alliance. In fact, he wanted to take revenge for his ancestors. He had no reason to object. Moreover, his bloodline had always been under Wei Shuya's protection. Putting aside the fact that Lin Yi, who was very powerful, was leading them, he could accept it even if it was someone weaker. In any case, as long as it was Wei Shuya who said it, he had to support it. When the people present saw that the strongest among them, Tao Gongwang, was killed, and Luo Sansong and Zhao Qingping had chosen to surrender, even if the others still had some ulterior motives, they respectfully lowered their heads and cupped their hands, saying, "Greetings, Lord." At this time, outside the main hall, Wei Shuya and Chu Wuji had actually been watching. When they saw that Chu Xiu had subdued these people in such a short period of time, Chu Wuji could not help but praise, "This kid is really good." Xiao Ling and Lu Jin did not choose the wrong person. In fact, what our Yinma clan lacks the most are not experts, but people like this kid who can control the overall situation and really do things. Strength and ability were 2 different concepts. Some people had strength, but it did not mean that they were good in all aspects. Take Chu Wuji for example. Although he was born in the royal family, he was not good at controlling his subordinates and plotting. He could kill people, but he could not do anything else. Mei Qinglian was also such a person. However, she was the only one left in the Yin demon sect. Even if she wasn't good at these things, she still had to do it. As for people like Mr. Lu who were not as strong as Mei Qinglian and Chu Wuji, he was actually stronger than the 2 of them. As early as when Mr. Lu was in the unity of heaven and man realm, he had already led the people of the phaseless demon sect to make all sorts of arrangements in the dark, causing quite a lot of trouble in the Jianghu. He himself was also one of the higher-ups of the phaseless demon sect, and he had many subordinates under him. Wei Shuya shook his head and said, There are actually a lot of capable people in the Inma clan. Unfortunately, the alliance is the alliance after all. There are too many unstable factors. In the past, when the 9 heavenly demons formed the Demon Dao Alliance, the reason why we were able to set off such a great power was because the 5 of us had quite a bit of strength under us. With them as the core, we were able to form a powerful alliance. Although the strength of the Hidden Devil clan was much stronger than before, there were also more schemes. Although the Phaseless Demon Sect, the Scarlet Demon Sect, and the other sects were loyal to the Inma clan, they had to consider the interests of their own sects first. The other old fellows of the Inma clan were even more excessive. They only thought about the interests of their own disciples and grand-disciples, and brought out a large number of disciples. They only thought about the benefits, and when they encountered a problem, they would push the blame onto each other. You said that my Inmo clan does not lack experts, but what I Inmo clan lack is a supreme expert that can suppress everyone. Chu Wuji was silent for a while and said, "You mean a supreme expert like Yi Xiaonan of the moon-worshipping cult?" Although the Bright Demon clan and the Inma clan were still hostile, Chu Wuji had to admit that the entire Inma clan could not find an expert who could match Yi Xiaonan. If there was no moon-worshipping cult to share the pressure on the surface, the Inma clan would not be so relaxed now. Wei Shuya shook his head and narrowed his eyes. He did not know where to look. Not enough. Far from enough. What my Inma clan needs is not only an expert like Yi Xiaonan, but also an existence like Patriarch Dugu who can suppress the entire Jianghu. Only then can my Inma clan completely turn over. Chu Wuji smiled bitterly and did not say anything. Since ancient times, how many people in the world could compare to Patriarch Dugu? Only a handful. Lu Chunyang of the Chunyang Dao sect was one, Bodhidharma of the Buddhist sect was one, Ning Xuanji of the True Martial sect was also one, and there was Patriarch Dugu. Perhaps there were a few people who could compare to Patriarch Dugu, but all of them counted. There were no more than 10. Whether the Inma clan could produce another expert like Patriarch Dugu, in Chu Wuji's opinion, the hope was slim, and he could not even see it in his generation. At this time, Chu Xiu was also thinking about how he should complete this task. Luo Sansong and the others had already been subdued. Although these guys were unruly, as long as they were obedient, they were still very strong. Therefore, in this regard, Chu Xiu did not need to worry. Moreover, people had desires, and this group of Inma clan was the same. With Chu Xiu's identity and status, and Wei Shuya standing behind him, these people wanted to stand out, so they had to perform well in front of Chu Xiu. Therefore, the problem in front of Chu Xiu now was how to solve these forces on the list as soon as possible. On the list that Wei Shuya gave to Chu Xiu, those forces were generally not too strong. Some families might have hidden ancestors who had stepped into the martial Dao Grand Master realm. But Chu Xiu was not afraid. With his current strength, Chu Xiu was confident that he could fight with ordinary martial Dao Grand Masters, and even had a high chance of winning. With the 7 demon saber in hand, it was not difficult for Chu Xiu to kill some weaker martial Dao Grand Masters. Therefore, the real difficulty of this task was speed. Chu Xiu had to use the fastest speed to clean up this group of people. Once this group of people sensed that something was wrong, they would either scatter and hide, or they would attract some righteous path sect's martial artists, increasing the difficulty for Chu Xiu. At the same time, it would also cause some unpredictable things. But these forces on the list were too scattered. Dozens of forces, most of them in eastern Qi, some in west Chu, and some in northern Yan. Chu Xiu would clean up a dozen forces one by one. It was estimated that after he got rid of a dozen forces, the other forces would notice and then respond. After thinking for a while, Chu Xiu almost had a general plan. He said to Zhao Qingping in a deep voice, "Zhao Qingping, you have stayed in the Yinma branch for a long time, so you must be very familiar with these people. Divide them according to their strength and what they are good at, and choose a leader for each of them. Limit the number of leaders to 10, and let Luo Sansong manage the strongest teams." Luo Sansong was just about to say that he was not good at managing these things when Chu Xiu directly said, "You don't have to care so much. When the time comes, when I ask you to kill someone, you just have to lead your subordinates to kill someone. Just listen to my commands. Don't tell me you can't do that." Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Luo Sansong had to spread out his hands and said, "I can do that." In fact, people like Luo Sansong were not suitable to manage these things, but Chu Xiu could not let Zhao Qingping manage everyone. But now Chu Xiu did not know these people well, so he could only do this for the time being. Zhao Qingping was not an idiot, and he did not have any objections to Chu Xiu's way of doing things. On the contrary, if the other party really trusted him so much and let him manage everyone, then either the other party was too stupid and naive, or there was some kind of conspiracy behind it. "Sir, which force should we choose first?" Zhao Qingping asked. Chu Xiu glanced at the information and said, "Choose the nearest one, the Wang family of Western Chu. But we don't need all of us to attack. You choose 20 people and attack with me. Remember, among these 20 people, there can't be any warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm. Only those in the 3-flower realm, and the 5 cheese collecting origin realm." Hearing Chu Xiu say this, Zhao Qingping and Luo Sansong felt a little strange. In their opinion, given their strength, they should have just mobilized all of their forces to annihilate these small factions. It would have been a piece of cake for them to get rid of the other party. However, Chu Xiu had only mobilized a little bit of his strength. Why did he have to go to the trouble? But seeing Chu Xiu's confident look, they did not ask much. Whatever Chu Xiu said they would do. The Wang family of Western Chu was actually very close to Guanxi, not far from the border between Guanxi and Western Chu. They were not weak, but they were not strong either. There were also a few warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm in the family. It was late at night, and the Wang family's hall was still brightly lit. During the day, the Wang family's old ancestor had just held his 188th birthday. At this time, the guests had already left. The Wang family's old ancestor called his family over and lectured the juniors as usual. In the Wang family's hall, over 100 direct descendants of the Wang family were either sitting or standing. They were all gathered around the Wang family's old ancestor. A unity of heaven and man realm martial artist had a lifespan of 200 years. Although the Wang family's old ancestor only had a dozen years left to live, he was still in good spirits and his face was glowing. Looking at the many descendants below, the Wang family's old ancestor stroked his white beard and said, "Ever since my Wang family's ancestor established the family, it has already been over 300 years. You need to know that it is easy to start a business but hard to maintain it. The reason my Wang family has its current power is because my ancestor followed the Sword Hut's sword experts to destroy the Demonic Path Alliance 300 years ago. Because he bravely killed the enemy, he was recognized by the Sword Hut's experts and was bestowed with a cultivation technique, allowing us to establish the family. You also need to remember that it was not easy for my Wang family to have what it is today. Cultivate hard and don't be lazy. Only then can we live up to the legacy our ancestor left behind." At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from outside. "Since your ancestor left behind so many legacies for your Wang family, then shouldn't your ancestors' karma be repaid by you?" Chapter 599. In the middle of the night, a voice suddenly came from the inner residence of the Wang family. Everyone in the Wang family was shocked. The old ancestor of the Wang family stood up and shouted, "Who is it? Come out. Don't play tricks here." With a loud bang, the door of the Wang family's inner residence was blasted open. 2 disciples of the Wang family who were guarding the door fell to the ground. There were no injuries on their bodies, but they were already dead. Chu Xiu was dressed in black and wore an expressionless black iron mask. He carried the 7-demon saber on his back as he walked into the hall. Everyone gasped when they saw him. Not long after Xiaofan, the news of Lin Yi, the hero of diabolism, had spread throughout the Jianghu. Among the top 10 on the Longhu list, he was the only one who came from diabolism, and was ranked in the top 10. He had even killed a martial arts master before. At this moment, Chu Xiu was dressed the same as he was in Xiaofan, so it was easy for the Wang family to recognize him. The old ancestor of the Wang family waved his hand and said with a solemn expression, "Lin Yi, the Wang family has no enmity with you. What do you mean by this?" The patriarch of the Wang family really could not understand. He did not know Lin Yi at all. In fact, he had only heard about Lin Yi through hearsay. But now Lin Yi had come knocking on his door. What was the meaning of this? Chu Xiu sneered. No enmity? Old man Wang, you were just showing off the achievements of your Wang family's ancestor 300 years ago. Have you forgotten about it now? 300 years ago, on Jiutian Mountain, your Wang family's ancestor followed an expert from the Sword Hut and killed 17 people from my diabolism. TSK, how powerful. However, a debt of blood must be paid in blood. 300 years have passed, and the interest should increase a little. In the past, your Wang family killed 17 people from my diabolism. Today, I will kill 170 people from your Wang family. The hatred of the past will be repaid tenfold, 100-fold. It's fair and reasonable, isn't it? Hearing this, the old ancestor of the Wang family's expression suddenly changed. He did not expect that his family would be targeted by the Yinma clan because of this matter. In the past, when the Wang family's ancestor participated in killing the 9 Heavenly Mountains Demon Dao Alliance, it was for a prosperous future, so he didn't care about the consequences at all. In the end, the 9 Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance was destroyed. A group of demonic Dao people could only hide in the dark and tremble. They could not think of taking revenge, nor did they dare to. Gradually, the Wang clan forgot about this matter. In fact, in this generation, the Wang clan didn't even realize that they still had this grudge. Usually, the Wang clan's ancestor would teach the younger generation a lesson and tell them about the clan's history. It was only to increase the cohesion of the clan leader. In the end, who would have thought that a period of history from 300 years ago would cause the Wang family to experience a calamity of death? The ancestor of the Wang family hurriedly said, "Let's not talk about the past for now. That was 300 years ago. Sir Lin, please understand. My Wang family has long stopped caring about the conflicts between the righteous and demonic lineages. Ever since I was born, my Wang family has never moved against the demonic lineage." Chu Xiu said indifferently, "The ancestors plant trees, and the descendants benefit from the shade. The karma of the ancestors naturally needs to be repaid by the descendants. Old man Wang, didn't you say before that the Wang family was able to have its current family business because your ancestor exchanged the heads of the demonic Dao warriors? Now that you have enjoyed this family business for 300 years, it is time to return it." A middle-aged warrior who had reached the unity of heaven and man realm stepped forward and shouted coldly, "Ancestor, why are you wasting your breath on him? This Lin Yi is just one person. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than the entire Wang family? Everyone attack together and subdue this little demon. Then hand him over to the Forgetful Sword Hut to receive the reward." Although this warrior from the Wang family had also reached the unity of heaven and man realm, it was clear that he had not seen the limits of the unity of heaven and man realm. He did not know that although they were both at the unity of heaven and man realm, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Furthermore, this kind of strength could not be made up for with numbers. "You shut up." The Wang family's ancestor shouted angrily at the warrior. His entire body trembled in fear. The Wang family's ancestor was not afraid of Lin Yi. No matter how strong Lin Yi was, he was just one person, a junior of the demonic Dao. He was not an expert like Chu Wuji. What he was truly afraid of was Lin Ye's purpose for appearing here. The Yinma clan wanted to settle the enmity from 300 years ago. Even if they could hide from Lin Yi today, could they hide from the revenge of the entire Yinma clan? It was a colossus that could easily crush the entire Wang family. The Wang family's ancestor pleaded to Chu Xiu, "Young Master Lin, it is true that my Wang family's ancestor participated in that battle back then, but the mastermind of that battle was not my Wang family's ancestor. If the Yinma clan wants revenge, why bother making things difficult for us, a small family? Isn't it better to find the mastermind?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Of course not. Whether it's the mastermind or the accomplice, the Yinma clan's enmity will be avenged sooner or later. It doesn't matter who we find first. You don't have to have any wishful thinking anymore." The Wang family's ancestor let out a long breath and said in a deep voice, "All right. I will avenge my ancestors. Young Master Lin, you don't have to do anything. I am willing to be captured, but young Master Lin, can you let the other disciples of my Wang family live? Leave a trace of my Wang family's bloodline." Chu Xiu said in an awe-inspiring tone. Your Wang clan has enjoyed for so many years, it's time for you to pay the price. I said that I want to kill 170 people, so I want 170 lives. If human lives aren't enough, then even if I have to kill the dogs of your Wang clan, and use their lives to make up for this number. Lin Yi, you are going too far. The Wang family's ancestor roared angrily. Blood qi rose around his body and turned into a blood sword. He suddenly attacked Chu Xiu. He was so decisive that he burned his blood essence as if he was risking his life. At the same time, the Wang family's ancestor also roared at the other warriors of the Wang family. Run! Run! Although the Wang family's ancestor liked to show off in front of the younger generation and liked to put on face, as the head of the family, the Wang family's ancestor was qualified enough. As a senior of the Jianghu, he was several times older than Chu Xiu. However, he was careful and servile in front of Chu Xiu. He said all kinds of good words, and was even willing to use his life in exchange for the survival of his family. The Wang family's ancestor was responsible enough. It was a pity that Chu Xiu came to kill people today. Even if he was responsible enough, he couldn't escape death. At the moment when the Wang family's ancestor attacked with his sword, a demon Buddha of slaughter appeared behind Chu Xiu. But at this time, the demon Buddha of slaughter was not holding a knife in its hand. Instead, it was forming a seal. In an instant, the Wang family's ancestor was shocked to find that the blood sword he had condensed was not under his control. With the movement of the demon Buddha of slaughter, the blood sword turned upside down. Under the Wang family's ancestor's disbelieving gaze, it directly pierced through his protective gang qi and stabbed into his chest. In front of Chu Xiu, who had the demon blood technique, any cultivation method that burned qi and blood would be restrained by Chu Xiu, unless the opponent had a strong physical strength to suppress their own qi and blood. Now that Chu Xiu had the identity of Lin Yi, it was not convenient for him to use a cultivation method like the demon blood technique. He could only use the power of the demon Buddha of slaughter to use the demon blood technique. Although the effect was the same, under the concealment of the demon Buddha of slaughter, ordinary people would not be able to see this change. Chu Xiu walked forward step by step. He stretched out his hand and pushed lightly, directly pushing the Wang family's ancestor to the ground. Now it was the Wang family's turn to tremble. In the hearts of the Wang family's disciples, the ancestor should be a godlike existence, able to block all enemies. But in front of Lin Yi, their ancestor could not withstand a single blow. Just now, the Wang family's ancestor had asked them to quickly escape. This group of Wang family's disciples did not care, but at this time, they were all screaming and running towards the other exit of the inner hall. But before they could escape, a long spear stained with demon qi shot out like a waterfall, smashing a group of people away. Then, another spear struck down a Wang family's unity of heaven and man realm cultivator. Its power was extraordinary. The owner of this demon spear was Zhao Qingping. Although this person usually looked very calm and taciturn, at this time, when he made a move, it was incomparably shocking. His spear technique was accurate and fierce, and its power was not weak. Want to escape? Leave your life behind first. Following Zhao Qingping's attack, the more than 20 people that he brought immediately attacked and began to chase the Wang family's cultivators. Although the Yinma clan had very few people, only more than 20 people, these people were the cream of the crop among those of the same level. It was not difficult to fight one against many. Moreover, there were also the two experts Chu Xiu and Zhao Qingping. The Wang family was easily defeated by them. However, because they were few in number, some people from the Wang family still escaped. After cleaning up the battlefield, Zhao Qingping walked over with the demon spear in his hand and said in a deep voice, "My lord, we have killed all that can be killed, but there are still some people from the Wang family who escaped. Do we need to chase?" Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "Don't care about them. After a while, we will attack the next clan. Remember, only bring more than 20 people will be enough." Zhao Qingping agreed respectfully. However, at this moment he was also very puzzled. He did not know what Lin Yi was up to. If Lin Yi had brought all his people to attack the Wang family this time, Zhao Qingping could guarantee that no one from the Wang family would escape alive. In the end, more than 10 people from the Wang family had escaped. Even when Lin Yi had attacked just now, he had been very careless. It seemed like he had deliberately let these people go. However, Zhao Qingping had always been a cautious person. Although he had some doubts about Lin Ye's arrangements, he did not ask. He did not trust Chu Xiao. It could be said that he had never trusted Chu Xiao. It was only because the person in front of him was chosen by Senior Wei Shuya that he was so respectful to Chu Xiao. He believed that the person chosen by Senior Wei Shuya would not be an idiot. He would not deliberately let the tiger return to the mountain and cut the grass without removing the roots. Chapter 600. Chu Xiao did not just make a move against the Wang family in West Chu, he also made a move against many of the powers on the West Chu list. But the strange thing was that every time Chu Xiao used more than 20 people, he did not use his full strength. This also caused a portion of people to escape every time Chu Xiao made a move. Because a large number of people escaped, the news that the Yinma bloodline was preparing for revenge gradually spread throughout West Chu, and even the martial arts world. Hearing this news, most people actually had an indifferent attitude. There were countless incidents of families being destroyed. The number of people killed by the Yinma bloodline was not as many as the number of people killed in the martial arts world. It was not a big deal. Furthermore, although there were many warriors who had participated in the battle to exterminate the 9 Heavenly Mountains demonic Dao Alliance, there were only a few that still had their legacies after 300 years. Even if Chu Xiao's list contained dozens of factions, they were just a drop in the ocean when placed in the entire Jianghu. The Yinma bloodline had jumped out to cause a lot of trouble before. For example, in the God Weapon Conference, the spearhead was pointed at Hidden Sword Villa, one of the 5 major sword sections. Now they were just destroying some small forces to vent their anger. For the entire martial arts world, it was really not a big deal. Moreover, Wei Shuya was very accurate. He only attacked the small forces and not the big sections. Although it was a bit cowardly to pick the soft ones, it was also very safe. The big sects had already heard about this, but they had not really taken action. After all, it was not a matter that truly concerned their own interests. Moreover, the movement caused by the Yinma clan was not too big. Even if it was a righteous sect like the Great Light Temple, their reaction speed was not considered fast. At this time, in a secret stronghold of the Yinma bloodline in West Chu, Zhao Qingping brought more than 20 people to carry out the mission of exterminating the family. Chu Xiao was peacefully cultivating in the stronghold. This time he did not even do it himself, because the target was too weak. There was only one warrior in the unity of Heaven Realm in the entire family. Zhao Qingping could handle it alone. If he went, it would really be a massacre. When Zhao Qingping returned with his men and saw Chu Xiao's leisurely appearance, he finally couldn't help but ask, "My lord, you want us to do this, but when will we be able to clean up all the people on the list? Now if we destroy a family we will lose half of their people. In the end, I'm afraid we won't even be able to clean up the West Chu powers. The powers on our target will already be on alert and preparing countermeasures." Chu Xiao raised his eyebrows and said, "Prepare countermeasures. What I am afraid of is not that they are prepared, but that they are not. There were dozens of forces on the list, and they were all located in West Chu, Northern Yan and Eastern Qi. Even if they attacked with all their strength, and even if we could teleport, we wouldn't be able to kill so many people in such a short time. So my plan is very simple. I want them to be prepared. Instead of cleaning them up one by one, it's better to let them gather together. This way, it'll be easier for us to take action and catch them all in one go, once and for all." When Zhao Qingping saw that Chu Xiao seemed to have a plan, he couldn't help but ask, "But my lord, those powers are scattered throughout the Jianghu. How could they listen to us?" Chu Xiao narrowed his eyes and said, "It's very simple. Just find someone who can make them listen to us. We've sent out so many people, and I believe that those people have already understood our strength. Moreover, they've spread the news and the atmosphere of panic. At this time, if there's a person with high prestige, it'll be very easy to gather everyone." Chu Xiao picked up the information that Wei Shuya gave him and pointed to the names on it. "You continue to bring people to act in West Chu. Only find the powers that are weaker than you. Don't touch the powers that are stronger than you. Once you find something abnormal, immediately retreat. As for me, I will bring Luo Sansong and the others to Eastern Qi to find the person who can raise his arm and call for help. The master of Lin and County's Red Leaf Manor. Maple dancing swordsman Lu Jianhong. The person that Chu Xiu chose was one of the strongest powers on the list. Lu Jianhong himself had stepped into the realm of martial arts grandmaster a year ago. Red Leaf Manor was also the top power in Eastern Qi's Lin and County. 300 years ago, these people rose to power through the annihilation of the 9 Heavenly Mountains demonic Tao Alliance. Until now, some of the powers were developing mediocre, while others were developing well. Red Leaf Manor was one of them. Lu Jianhong was the master of Red Leaf Manor. Whether it was himself or Red Leaf Manor, they had a good reputation in Eastern Qi's Jianghu. Lu Jianhong's nickname was the Maple Dancing Swordsman. The word hero was not something that an ordinary person could bear. Lu Jianhong had this nickname because he had helped those in danger and helped those in need in Eastern Qi's Jianghu for so many years. He had built up his reputation by eradicating many diabolism villains. Red Leaf Manor would also help those martial artists who were in trouble, regardless of remuneration. Hence, it had a good reputation in Eastern Qi's Jianghu. However, from Chu Xiu's point of view, whether it was Lu Jianhong or Red Leaf Manor, they were actually very similar to one person and one power, and that was Nie Renlong of the morgue. Lu Jianhong was following Nie Renlong's old path, or rather, he had always been imitating Nie Renlong. Whether it was helping those in danger or eradicating those diabolism villains, or helping the martial artists who came from Red Leaf Manor, they were all utilitarian. However, from Chu Xiu's point of view, Lu Jianhong was a little stingy in doing things. He was far less generous than Nie Renlong. Nie Renlong also did things for the sake of reputation, but he dared to pay a huge price for this reputation. Hence, he had the reputation of the morgue in Jianghu. On the other hand, Lu Jianhong was too cautious. He wanted to help those in danger to accumulate his reputation, but what he helped were only small matters, and what he gave out alms were also small favors. Other people were not idiots. Very few people would be deeply grateful to Lu Jianhong, just because of these small favors. The diabolism villains that Lu Jianhong eradicated were almost all those who were not as powerful as him. So the harm they caused was limited. Hence, the reputation that he gained from eradicating those people was also limited. In Chu Xiu's point of view, this kind of person was the kind of person who was extremely ambitious, but in reality, his own ability and means were limited. At this moment, in the Red Leaf Manor of Eastern Qi's Lin and County, Lu Jianhong was sitting on the main seat in the main hall. Around him were more than 10 experts from the Lu family of Red Leaf Manor, and some of his descendants. Everyone had a solemn expression on their faces. Lu Jianhong was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary temperament. His appearance was square and masculine, and there was a long sword embellished with a red maple scabbard in his hand. However, at this moment, there was no expression on Lu Jianhong's face, and the atmosphere was very depressing. The Yinma clan was preparing to take revenge for the 9 heavens 300 years ago. This matter had already spread from West Chu to Eastern Qi. The forces that were related to that matter were all feeling insecure. Lu Jianhong naturally knew how his Lu family's ancestors started their business, so the entire Red Leaf Manor was enveloped in a solemn atmosphere. At this moment, a middle-aged warrior who looked younger than Lu Jianhong could not help but stand up and say, "Big brother, we can't just sit here and wait for death. The Yinma clan wants to take revenge, but they don't dare to attack those big sections. They only dare to provoke us. This time, we have to let them see that our Red Leaf Manor is not a pushover." This time, the leader of the Yinma clan is only Lin Yi, who appeared on the Longhu list a few days ago. There are also more than 20 ordinary warriors, and there is not even a martial Dao master. Even if Lin Yi can fight against a martial Dao master, I don't believe that the others have the same ability. Let's set up a trap and wait for Lin Yi to bring his men over. We can kill them all in one fell swoop and dampen their spirits. This will also make our Red Leaf Manor famous in the pugilistic world. Lu Jianhong glanced at him and said, "You're thinking too simply. No matter how strong Lin Yi is, he is only a junior. It is naturally impossible for him to destroy our Red Leaf Manor alone. However, even if we block Lin Yi and kill him, what can we do? This matter is decided by the entire Yinma clan. If we kill Lin Yi, we can't guarantee that we will attract more experts from the Yinma clan. When that happens, how will our Red Leaf Manor defend against them? The warrior was instantly speechless. If that was the case, they could neither defend nor kill them. Could it be that their Red Leaf Manor could only sit and wait for death? A young man sitting next to Lu Jianhong stood up and cupped his hands together. Father, why don't we ask those big sects for help? Father, you are familiar with the people from the Hidden Sword Villa, the True Martial Arts Cult, and the Nansang Xiahou clan. Now that the people from the Devil Path are so overboard, can the Yinma clan defeat these top forces if you ask them for help? Lu Jianhong sighed and said, Haven't I thought about this? I even sent someone to pass the message to them previously, but it was like a stone thrown into the sea. Lin, you must remember that connections are connections, but you still have to rely on yourself at critical moments. This is especially so for the people from these big sections. Let alone the fact that I don't know people at the level of the clan leader. Even if it were the clan leader, they would have to discuss in detail about such a big matter and analyze the pros and cons before making a decision. When they come to a conclusion after their discussion, we don't know when it will happen. We can't just put our lives in the hands of others. The Lu clan members looked at each other. They couldn't fight them head-on, and they couldn't get external help either. How would the Lu clan survive this crisis? At this moment, a voice was heard from outside the door. Why don't I give you an idea? Red Leaf Manor and Hero Lu have both fame and power. It's better to rely on yourself than to rely on others. In this environment where everyone is in danger, why don't you raise your arm and call for all the forces that participated in the Nine Heavens 300 years ago? Gather them together, strengthen their power, and fight against the Yinma clan. When that time comes, not only will you be able to survive this crisis, even the top sects in the pugilistic world will not be able to ignore this power. Hero Lu, as the initiator of this alliance, you will have all the benefits of fame. Chapter 601. The idea mentioned by the voice that suddenly appeared was actually a very good suggestion. It even made Lu Jianhong feel like he was suddenly enlightened, turning passivity into initiative and disaster into opportunity. If everything went well and nothing went wrong, the Red Leaf Villa might really be more powerful than the Morgue Villa. However, no one in the hall felt happy. Instead, everyone's hearts tightened. They immediately picked up their weapons and stood up. This was the Red Leaf Villa, the territory of the Lu family. In the end, someone broke through the Lu family's defense outside the villa and eavesdropped on their conversation. Everyone in the Lu family felt horrified just thinking about it. Stop pretending to be mysterious. Come out. Lu Jianhong snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the long sword in his hand was already unsheathed. It turned into a crimson sword aura that danced in the air. The sword aura actually evolved into a faintly discernible sword aura. Outside the door, Chu Xiu's fist landed. The murderous aura condensed and directly shattered the sword aura. Then he stepped into the hall. Behind him, Luo Sansong led more than 200 elites of the Hidden Devil clan and broke through the door. They rushed into the Red Leaf Villa. In an instant, the entire Red Leaf Villa was filled with demonic aura. Seeing Chu Xiu's figure, Lu Jianhong's expression suddenly changed. Lin Yi, why are you here? According to the information, Lin Yi should be in West Chu. Why did he suddenly appear in Eastern Qi? There were also the people behind him. There were nearly 23 warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm. The weakest among them was in the Three-Flower realm. Such a strong force was enough to attack a force like the Ba Mountain Sword sect, let alone his Red Leaf Villa. Chu Xiu sneered and did not say anything. He formed a seal with his hand, and the demon Buddha of slaughter behind him was displayed. The crimson blood blade slashed forward with incomparable power. The pressure from the blade intent made Lu Jianhong feel a faint sense of heavy pressure. Although Lu Jianhong had just stepped into the Martial Dao Grandmaster realm not long ago, he was still a Martial Dao Grandmaster no matter what. Yet he felt such a strong pressure from Chu Xiu. Was this not a joke? Fang Jianhong gritted his teeth. Countless flowers rippling out from the long sword in his hand. They looked gorgeous, but they contained killing intent. Every flower contained a sliver of sword intent and stellar energy, and as the countless flowers fell from the sky, They were actually countless sword chi streaking across the sky. Seeing Fang Jianhong make his move, Chu Xiu couldn't help but reveal a cold smile. Fang Jianhong's strength was lower than he had imagined. Although Chu Xiu was currently in the unity of heaven and man realm, most of the people who were qualified to fight with him were martial Dao Grand Masters. Moreover, among the martial Dao Masters who had fought with Chu Xiu, other than Xiao Liandong, who had died in his hands, who was relatively weak, the rest were not weak. Even someone like Zhen Yangzi was considered a powerhouse among the martial Dao Masters. These relatively powerful martial Dao Grand Masters all had a common characteristic. When they fought, they rarely used their martial Dao Grand Master's own advantages. Instead, they used their own strength. What was the most basic advantage of martial Dao Grand Masters? It was to condense the real pellet of martial Dao. They could quickly absorb the aura of heaven and earth and transform it into their own strength. So in theory, you could use the number of people to kill a martial artist in the unity of heaven and man realm. Even if it was a martial artist like Zhongxian who had terrifying power, his internal force was not a bottomless pit. However, a real pellet state martial artist couldn't be killed by a large number of low-rank martial artists. This was the biggest advantage of martial Dao Grand Masters, but this advantage was only for martial artists whose strength was far inferior to them. When two martial Dao Grand Masters fought, this advantage naturally disappeared. Therefore, most martial Dao Grand Masters still had to develop their own strength to make their combat power stronger. But when Lu Jianhong attacked, his explosive power was not even as strong as Chu Xiu. His sword momentum seemed to be endless, but in fact, he wanted to use his endless qi to exhaust Chu Xiu. This move was easy for other martial artists in the unity of heaven and man realm. But for Chu Xiu, it was simply wishful thinking. The slaughter demon Buddha slashed the seemingly magnificent flowers directly, and the boundless blood qi soared into the sky. Coupled with the demonic flame of the Buddha, it made this slash look extremely evil. When the sword and the saber collided, Lu Jianhong suddenly felt a strong attack, and his figure couldn't help but retreat. That slash even affected the power of his qi and blood, even making Lu Jianhong feel as if his qi and blood were boiling. With Lu Jianhong's reputation in the martial arts world of Eastern Qi, he had fought with many martial artists, but he had never really fought with the top 10 talents on the Longhu list. To him, who had already become a martial Dao Grand Master, how strong could someone in the unity of heaven and man realm be? The so-called descriptions on the Longhu list were a little too exaggerated. In the end, Lu Jianhong saw that the Longhu list was not exaggerating. The combat power of these young talents was even stronger than he had imagined. His figure retreated and Lu Jianhong let out a furious roar. His sword was like flowing fire, and the crimson sword intent pulsated with nirvanic flames. When the sword stabbed out, the sixth transformation precious weapon in Lu Jianhong's hand seemed to be unable to withstand it, and became boiling hot, as if it was about to melt. Lu Jianhong wasn't considered a rogue cultivator. The patriarch of the Lu clan had risen to power during the Great War between the righteous and the demonic in the Nine Heavens Mountain, but he didn't accumulate much. Therefore, Lu Jianhong's martial arts inheritance wasn't considered strong. Although he had become a martial Dao Grand Master now, his martial arts inheritance couldn't even compare to that of some ordinary disciples from large sects, let alone Chu Xiu. This sword technique didn't belong to him, but it was an incomplete technique that he had accidentally obtained from the secret box. It was extremely powerful, but because it was only an incomplete technique, there was a certain degree of risk of a backlash after using it. Lu Jianhong rarely used it unless it was a critical moment. He didn't expect that a martial Dao Grand Master like him would be forced to such an extent by a junior like Lin Yi with just one move. It was ridiculous and pathetic. Sensing the scorching flames and the power of nirvanic destruction in the sword, Chu Xiu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. As expected, no matter how weak a martial Dao Grand Master was, Lin Yi must have some trump cards since he was able to reach such a level. The power of the sword was extraordinary, and the complete sword technique must have been very powerful in ancient times. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful a technique was, it was just a technique. The key was the person who used it. The killing devil Buddha form behind Chu Xiu dissipated. At the same time, Chu Xiu's hand was on the greedy blade behind him. The 7-demon blade hurt both others and oneself. Initially, Chu Xiu didn't plan to use it easily. However, he needed to defeat Lu Jianhong and the rest as soon as possible. Therefore, Chu Xiu could only use the 7-demon blade as a killer move. The 7-demon blade targeted a person's 7 emotions and 6 desires. With Chu Xiu's current ability, no matter which blade he used, Chu Xiu could only use one slash. Therefore, he had to choose a slash that could completely target Lu Jianhong's inner emotions. Otherwise, he would waste an opportunity. Greed, anger, obsession, hate, love, evil, and desire. Among the 7 emotions, greed was something most people couldn't avoid. Some people were greedy for money, some were lustful, and some were greedy for power. Lu Jianhong was a utilitarian. He couldn't escape the greed. The moment the greedy blade was unsheathed, an evil demonic aura roared out and devoured all energy, triggering Lu Jianhong's inner demons. In an instant, Lu Jianhong's eyes were slightly red. The greed in his heart was reflected on his face, distorting his originally square face into a hideous and terrifying look. Lu Jianhong's greed was very deep, even deeper than Chu Xiu imagined. He was a greedy person. He was greedy for fame, status, and power. There was a morgue in the north that rose from the wilderness. Nie Renlong gathered all the experts in the world to form a morgue, which was why the morgue that was famous in the pugilistic world was formed. Lu Jianhong believed that he was not inferior to Nie Renlong. He had always wanted to turn the Red Leaf Villa into a morgue for Eastern Qi. He had planned for this for countless years. Now that he had stepped into the martial arts master realm, he had come up with countless strategies and plans for this. Therefore, he couldn't die here today. He didn't want to die here either. As the greedy blade slashed down, the earth energy around Lu Jianhong changed a little. Originally, his earth energy was crimson in color. Although Chu Xiu couldn't tell what kind of earth energy it was, Chu Xiu was sure that it was definitely not the earth energy of the demonic path. Now the earth energy around Lu Jianhong had turned black and red, emitting an evil aura. This was a sign that he had turned into a demon. The greedy blade slashed down and devoured everything. Lu Jianhong's stellar energy was engulfed by the saber. The greedy saber, which carried the nirvanic flames, did not completely engulf Lu Jianhong. However, as the greedy saber slashed down, endless demonic flames engulfed it. Even the distorted stellar energy around Lu Jianhong's body involuntarily flowed into the greedy saber, helping it suppress his sword move. The devil chi scattered, and the sword intent scattered. The long sword in Lu Jianhong's hand shattered. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying, crashing into a row of tables and chairs behind him. Chu Xiu's eyes were also slightly red. However, he used his powerful mental energy to suppress the backlash of the greedy blade, and casually sheathed the greedy blade. The 7-demon blade was inspired by the supreme saber technique of the ancient times, the 7 limits. Although it couldn't activate the power of the 7 limits, the power of the 7 emotions was equally terrifying. As long as one wasn't a saint with a pure heart and few desires, one would definitely be affected by the 7-demon blade when facing it. The only difference was the degree of the influence. Lu Jianhong's nickname was the Maple Dancing Swordsman. No one knew if the word hero was given to him by someone, or if he had gotten someone to spread it around. However, Lu Jianhong's true colors were revealed today under the greedy blade. He might be a hero, but he was a very greedy hero. Chapter 602. Lu Jianhong clutched his throbbing chest and looked at Chu Xiu in despair. He had just stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm for a year, and was full of ambition. He was planning how to turn Red Leaf Manor into a community of Eastern Qi, so that his Red Leaf Manor could rise and become one of the major sects in the pugilistic world. In the end, who would have thought that all of this would be shattered today? Lu Jianhong even resented his ancestor, whom he had never met, for participating in the annihilation of the 9 Heavens demonic Dao alliance. With his strength and potential, even without the support of his ancestor, he could still cultivate to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. Seeing that Chu Xiu was walking towards him, Lu Jianhong's sword was already broken. However, he was a martial Dao Grandmaster after all, so he still had the strength to fight. As a martial artist, most people had some backbone. In the face of a desperate situation, Those who would kneel and beg for mercy were the minority. Most people would still fight to the death. Just as Lu Jianhong was prepared to fight to the death, Chu Xiu stopped in front of him and said calmly, "Hero Lu, you've worked hard for so many years to achieve your current strength and status. Don't you think it's a pity to die just like that?" Lu Jianhong heard Chu Xiu's words. He struggled to stand up and said, "What do you want?" If Lin Yi only wanted to kill him for revenge, there would be no need for him to say so much. He could just stab him again. However, from what Lin Yi said, could there be a turning point in this matter? Chu Xiu said, "I've already told Hero Lu what I'm thinking. Hero Lu, you have both reputation and strength. You can gather other forces that are about to be retaliated against by the Hidden Devil clan, and form an alliance to resist them together." Lu Jianhong's voice trembled slightly. "What exactly do you want?" Lin Ye's idea was great, and it could even be said to be the best way to break out of this situation. However, why did he say it himself? Which side was he on? Lu Jianhong had a guess, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Chu Xiu lowered his head and stared at Lu Jianhong. He said in a low voice, "What? With Hero Lu's wisdom and methods, could it be that you still can't guess it? The factions of power who participated in the battle in Nine Heaven Mountain are scattered all over the world of martial artists. It'll take too much effort to search for them one by one, and it'll also waste too much time. Why don't we gather them all together? It'll be easier to kill them that way, don't you think?" "Impossible!" Lu Jianhong roared angrily. "Even if you kill me, I won't become a lackey of the demonic path and do such despicable and shameless things. You're setting me up for eternal damnation and making me, Lu Jianhong, despised by the entire Jianghu." Lu Jianhong could imagine how things would turn out if he agreed to Lin Ye's request. He, a hero who had quite a reputation in Eastern Qi, would lose all his standing and reputation, and be cast aside by the entire Jianghu. He had become a lackey of the Devil Path and helped the Yinma clan kill so many of his colleagues. From now on, even if he didn't die, there would be no place for him in Jianghu. Lu Jianhong was greedy and utilitarian, but he still had a bottom line. There were dozens of factions. Even if they only sent their elites over, there would still be more than 1,000 people. By doing this, it was equivalent to helping Lin Yi kill more than 1,000 people. He might not have killed so many people in his entire life. Chu Xiu squinted his eyes and looked at Lu Jianhong. This hero Lu was actually quite a failure as a person. He wasn't a real hero, but he wasn't a hypocrite either. If Nie Renlong was in Nie Renlong's shoes, he would definitely choose the other person's death over his own. However, it was obvious that Lu Jianhong still couldn't overcome the obstacle in his heart. Chu Xiu looked at Lu Jianhong, shook his head and sighed. "Manner Master Lu, you're still a little too stubborn. It's better to be selfish. What can you get by saving those people's lives? Do you think that you can gain a reputation for being a hero by sacrificing yourself? Stop dreaming, you won't be able to get anything." Chu Xiu shouted the last sentence. At the same time, the great technique of destroying heaven and destroying earth and soul transfer, and the rotation of inner demons were circulating silently. His subtle mental strength didn't forcibly control Lu Jianhong's thoughts, but instead created an atmosphere to guide Lu Jianhong's thoughts. "This time, no one knows the reason why I attacked your Red Leaf Manor. If you don't agree and I kill you, others will only think that it's a sneak attack by the Devil Path. If you die, it'll be in vain. If you die, it'll be in vain. There will even be people who rejoice in your misfortune and think that your Red Leaf Manor has finally fallen because of the benefits from 300 years ago. Manor Master Lu, never underestimate the evil intentions of some people in the Jianghu. If you die and the Red Leaf Manor is destroyed, I dare say that there will be more people who will applaud than sympathize with your Red Leaf Manor." Chu Xiu's words hit the nail on the head. Lu Jianhong wasn't a newcomer in the Jianghu. Of course, he knew that the majority of people in the Jianghu weren't chivalrous people who helped those in need, nor were they demons who killed people like flies. Instead, they were hypocrites who appeared sanctimonious on the surface, but were secretly thieves and prostitutes, as well as those despicable people who couldn't bear to see others do well. Chu Xiu whispered in Lu Jianhong's ear, "Manor Master Lu, is the righteous path and the devil path really that important?" If you want to turn the Red Leaf Manor into a memorial hall, if you want fame, join the Devil Path. You will also have fame. Fame is earned through strength, not through scheming. Lu Jianhong glanced at Chu Xiu and whispered in a hoarse voice, if you join the Devil Path you won't gain fame, but notoriety. Chu Xiu waved his hand and snorted coldly, notoriety? As long as you're strong enough, regardless of whether you're a righteous or a devil, you'll gain fame. Chu Xiu pointed to the other side. Under the attack of Luo Sansong and the others, the rest of the Lu clan had already been subdued. In front of more than 200 elites of the Devil Path, they had no chance to fight back at all. This was also because Chu Xiu had previously instructed Luo Sansong not to kill anyone. Otherwise, this group of people would have been slaughtered long ago. Manor Master Lu, take a good look. These are all members of the Lu clan. The blood of the Lu clan flows in their bodies. Is that your younger brother? Manor Master Lu, you have a good younger brother. Although he isn't much younger than you, he has listened to you since he was young. He has never wanted to fight with you for the position of the clan master. Do you have the heart to let such a close relative die? That young man is your son, right? Your son is quite talented. He has just reached the inner invulnerability state at the age of 20. In time, with proper training, he might have the opportunity to be ranked on the Longhu list. You want to carry forward the Red Leaf Villa. Isn't it for your son and your inheritance? Now that your son is dead, even if Manor Master Lu obtains the fame, who will you leave it to? Chu Xiu pointed to the group of Lu clan members who looked terrified and said to Lu Jianhong in a low voice, Manor Master Lu, you only have one chance. Think carefully before you speak. Do you want to work for me, for the Yinma clan? Do you want others to bleed and others to cry? Or do you want your own family to bleed and cry? The choice is in your hands. Look at these people. They are all your close relatives. If you say no, I'll send you to reunite with them in hell. Don't worry, I'll be very swift. Although some people like to smear the reputation of the Devil Path, saying that we are cruel and enjoy torturing people. In fact, those who like to torture people are perverts, not people of the Devil Path. Maple dancing swordsman, haha. Manor Master Lu, you have sacrificed a lot for the word chivalrous. But if you think about it carefully, it's not bad to change the word chivalrous to devil. Isn't it? Lu Jianhong's face revealed a twisted expression of struggle. His eyes were red and the crimson gang qi around his body started to become unstable. It even emitted some black and red colors. This was the sign that he had already become a devil. Chu Xiu did not use the greedy blade, but his mental energy unknowingly dug out the deepest evil in Lu Jianhong's heart. This was an inner demon, a demon that belonged to Lu Jianhong himself. After a while, the aura on Lu Jianhong's body stabilized. He looked at Chu Xiu with an indescribable expression in his crimson eyes. He asked in a hoarse voice, Are you a demon? Chu Xiu shook his head and said, I'm a demon, not a ghost. It's just that you have a guilty conscience. Manor Master Lu, you've already made your choice, haven't you? Lu Jianhong's face revealed a dejected expression. He looked at his family members. Seeing that they could not hear him, he then said to Chu Xiu in a low voice, Have you given me a choice? There's no choice at all. All right, I promise you that I'll help you set up a trap to lure the others here. But I want to fake my death. After this is done, pretend to kill me. From then on, there will be no Lu Jianhong in the pugilistic world. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, Why do you have to do this? If you die, no one will scold you anymore? Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, If I die, they will only scold me for a while. They won't scold me forever. I just don't want my ancestors to be too embarrassed. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, A wise man submits to circumstances. Manor Master Lu's small request, of course I will fulfill it. Of course, the prerequisite is that you put on a good show. If you mess it up, the consequences are something that no one wants to see. Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, Don't worry. Now the lives of my entire family are in your hands. Do I still have a way out? Chu Xiu walked over and patted Lu Jianhong's shoulder. He said, Manor Master Lu, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Even if the Red Leaf Manor moves to a secret place, it will still be the Red Leaf Manor. If you join the Yinma clan, there might be more ways out. Actually, Manor Master Lu, you should feel lucky because you have the right to choose. Among all the forces on the list, although your red leaf manor is not the strongest, your reputation is the greatest. That's why I've chosen you as my target. Think about the others. From the moment you agreed, their fates were already decided. They don't even have a choice. Chapter 603. Lu Jianhong had fallen into the demonic path. No matter if he was sincere or helpless, this was a path of no return. He had no other choice. The Lu clan members in the Red Leaf Manor were not allowed to leave the manor before the plan was completed. Hence, Chu Xiu only left a few people to guard the place. He then chose another deserted place in eastern Qi as the location for the alliance. He also found a few people from the Hidden Devil clan who were the best at formations and set up a huge formation. A huge killing formation. At the same time, Lu Jianhong also spread the news in his own name. He gathered all the factions that were related to the Battle of the Nine Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance to gather in eastern Qi to discuss countermeasures. Before Lu Jianhong sent them a message, this group of people were all in a state of panic. They looked for connections and thought of countermeasures, but none of them had any good ideas to stop the Hidden Devil clan. But now Lu Jianhong's appearance gave them new hope. Their individual factions and connections were indeed unable to stop the Hidden Devil clan. However, now that so many factions had joined forces, it was impossible for Lin Ye's subordinates to kill over 1,000 of them with just over 20 people. It was more like a counterattack. And most importantly, with such a huge commotion, they didn't believe that the large sects wouldn't make a move. Even if their alliance joined forces, they would be able to match some of the weaker factions in the martial world, such as the Azure Water Sword sect and the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Hence, no matter what their intentions were, after receiving Lu Jianhong's news, almost no one refused. They all sent their elites to Eastern Qi to meet up with Lu Jianhong. This group of people created such a huge commotion that the various large sects heard some news. But some started to take action, while some didn't. Those who took action were mostly interested in the alliance formed by Lu Jianhong. Hence, they were prepared to send people to contact them. As for those who didn't take action, they were either uninterested or didn't care at all. At this moment, in a small courtyard of the Great Light Temple's Wangyan Zen Hall, two monks dressed in white monk robes were sitting in front of a Bodhi tree and playing chess. One of them was a middle-aged monk with a fierce appearance. He was the first seat of the Vajra institution, Venerable Skunda, Suyan. On the other hand, the monk opposite him looked very strange. At first glance, he looked very young. He seemed to be in his 20s, but upon closer inspection, he seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. If you looked into his eyes, you would feel a strange sense of vicissitudes. You would even suspect that he was hundreds of years old. This strange monk was the head of the 3 great meditation halls of the Great Radiance Temple, the first seat of the Raging Thought Meditation Hall, the 9 Wonders Dragon Tree Su Yun. He was recognized by the outside world as a powerful being who was second only to the abbot, Reverend Sakya Su Ci. However, within the Great Radiance Temple, many people felt that Su Yun was even scarier than the abbot, Su Ci. Because this is a person you can't see through at all. Outsiders could not see through Su Yun, and the people from the Temple of Great Light could not see through Su Yun either. Even Su Yun's teachers, the Buddhist masters from the previous generation of the Temple of Great Light, could not see through Su Yun either. In the end, Su Yun, who was much more famous than Su Ci, became the first seat of the Zen Hall of Delusion, while Su Ci became the abbot. However, within the Temple of Great Light, Su Yun's status was not any lower than Su Ci's. At the very least, Su Yan's attitude towards Su Ci was almost as respectful as the abbot. At this moment, Su Yan casually put down a chess piece and slaughtered Su Yan's entire dragon. Su Yan's hand moved slightly, but he eventually put down the chess piece and smiled bitterly. "Senior brother Su Yan, I've lost." Su Yan put away the chessboard and said calmly, "Su Yan, when you play chess, you always feel a little uneasy. Did something happen? If there was nothing, you wouldn't have come looking for me in a hurry to play chess." Su Yan smiled bitterly. "It's nothing much. It's just that there have been a lot of things happening in the underworld recently. Some of them are things that our Temple of Great Light has to deal with, but there are also some that we don't know if we should or not. Right now the abbot is in seclusion, so I can only ask you, senior brother Su Yun. Su Yun said slowly. What is it? Su Yen organized his words and told Su Yun about the recent happenings of the hidden devil lineage. Right now, that Eastern Chi's Red Leaf Manor's Lu Jianhong is inviting all the small factions that participated in the battle in the Nine Heaven Mountain back, then to join the Eastern Chi alliance. He has made quite a big fuss. If this alliance is formed by him, it will be even stronger than factions like the Azure Water Sword Sect or the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, which are ranked in the underworld. After Su Yun heard this, he nodded and said, if that is the case, this Lu Jianhong is really someone. He isn't like the other factions that are waiting for their deaths. Instead, he has taken the initiative. If this crisis is resolved, he can take advantage of the situation and become the leader of this alliance. His influence will not lose out to the Northern Yen Memorial Manor. Before this person has been carefully lying low. This time, he has shocked the world with a single brilliant feat and made such a big move. He is not a simple person. Su Yen said, that is why I am also hesitating. Since that Lu Jianhong has already made a move, should our Great Light Temple still send someone over? Although that Lin Yi is strong and even heavily injured Su Xing in the minor mortal heaven, when faced with such a powerful alliance, even if he is a martial arts grandmaster, he will not be able to stop it. Su Yin waved his hand and said, of course we have to go. If this matter is not handled well, it might even cause an intense conflict between the orthodox and demonic sections. Our Great Light Temple cannot be absent. Su Yen said in surprise, it can't be. The hidden devil lineage has a sense of propriety this time. They have never acted against the major factions. They have only acted against the minor factions and the descendants of some itinerant cultivators. Could it be that they want to start a war between the orthodox and demonic sects? Su Yin pointed to the sky and said, sometimes we have to look further. Now that the demonic sects are reviving, a slight change will affect the whole. There are undoubtedly more things that we have to consider. The alliance of the demonic sects in the Nine Heaven Mountain has already been destroyed for 300 years. In the end, the hidden devil lineage is only preparing to take revenge now. If the demonic sects have not recovered, do you think they will resurface? This time, Lu Jianhong has formed an alliance to resist the hidden devil lineage's revenge. According to what you said, the hidden devil lineage only has Lin Yi and over 20 elites. It is possible to destroy some minor factions, but against such a powerful alliance, it is no different from striking a rock with an egg. He will definitely lose. The best possibility is that Lin Yi knows the difficulty and retreats. Anyway, he has already destroyed a few factions. It can be considered that he has taken revenge and settled the enmity for now. The worst outcome is that Lin Yi is severely injured or killed. The hidden devil lineage will be completely enraged and will send even more experts to destroy Lu Jianhong's alliance. At that time, how can our orthodox sects stand by and do nothing? We will still have to interfere. Do you think this will cause a conflict between the orthodox and demonic sects? Su Yen wiped the sweat off his forehead. He really had not thought so far ahead. Su Yen already knew about this information, but after studying it for so long, he still had no clue. On the other hand, Su Yen only heard it once and thought of the pros and cons. This was the difference between them. In the entire Great Light Temple, in terms of the overall situation, apart from Su Jing, who specialized in karma and reincarnation in the Karma Zen Hall, Su Yin was the strongest. Of course, to be precise, Su Yin was strong in all aspects. Su Yin composed himself and said, then senior brother Su Yin, which side should we stand on? Do we need to help Lu Jianhong kill those demonic sects? Su Yin waved his hand indifferently and said, it doesn't matter whether we kill them or not. As long as the people of the Great Light Temple go there and make our stance clear, it will be fine. At that time, as long as Lin Yi is not an idiot, he will naturally retreat. The hidden devil lineage is in a state of disunity. Apart from Wei Shiya and a few other old demons, as well as the new generation disciples like Lin Yi, the rest cannot withstand a single blow and are far from being a threat. Don't clash with them for now, and there is no need to care about them. Right now, Both the Great Light Temple and the Celestial Master Abode have their eyes on the moon-worshipping cult. Yi Xiaonan is the true enemy. Su Yan said hesitantly, Senior brother, could it be that you cannot defeat that Yi Xiaonan? In Su Yan's mind, senior brother Su Yan's strength was unfathomable, even more so than Fang Zhang. Although Su Yan did not cultivate his spirit with true fire, and could not figure out the strength of this realm, he still thought that Su Yan was very strong, terrifyingly strong. Previously, when the Blue Dragon Society's Butianan came looking for trouble because the Northern Yan's Heavenly Sin branch had been destroyed, it was Su Yan who had repelled him. It had taken him less than 10 moves. To outsiders, Su Yan was only a few ranks higher than Butianan on the excellence list. However, to Su Yan, the difference in strength between the two was huge. Although the moon-worshipping cult master Yi Xiaonan was famous, Su Yan did not think that Su Yan was weaker than Yi Xiaonan. Su Yan extended a hand at Su Yan, spread his fingers, and shook them. 50-50? Su Yan said hesitantly. Su Yan shook his head. 5 moves. I am confident that I can block 5 moves from Yi Xiaonan without being defeated or at a disadvantage. After 5 moves, success or failure will be determined by the heavens. This is my estimation before Yi Xiaonan mastered the Heaven-Mending Heart Sutra. Now that he has mastered it, everything is uncertain. Su Yan sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. He never thought that Su Yan's evaluation of Yi Xiaonan would reach such a level. Could it be that another great demon like Duguwewa would appear in the Jianghu? Su Yan shook his head and cast this terrifying thought aside. He asked, Senior brother Su Yan, then who should my Great Light Temple send? Actually, the most suitable person to represent my Great Light Temple is Zhong Xian. However, he was defeated by Chu Xiu and is currently cultivating in seclusion. It is not good for me to interrupt his cultivation. Su Yan casually waved his hand and said, Let Su Xing go. Coincidentally, there is nothing going on in the Dharma court recently. He is very free. Su Yan said hesitantly, Let junior brother Su Xing go? However, he was heavily injured by Lin Ye's 7-demon saber in the minor mortal sky. In addition to his fiery temper, I am afraid that he will fight with Lin Yi. Su Yan said with an indifferent expression. The righteous path does not want to have a conflict with the hidden devil line now. However, this does not mean that we are afraid of the hidden devil line. If that Lin Yi is smart, he will know when to retreat. The two sides will not even meet. On the other hand, if he insists on going, then it will be a good lesson for the hidden devil line. We do not care if they stay underground. If they dare to show themselves, then we will beat them down again. Chapter 604. Lu Jianhong arranged for the alliance to be in Red Maple Valley, which was not far from Red Leaf Manor. Now that Red Leaf Manor was under the control of Chu Xiu's men, they naturally could not choose to be there. Moreover, the terrain of Red Leaf Manor was not very convenient. Eastern Cheeselin and County produced maple trees. The reason why Red Leaf Manor was named so was that it was built in a maple forest. Every autumn, the entire manor would be wrapped in red leaves. It was the same for Red Maple Valley. It was full of maple trees. Now that it was autumn, the leaves of these maple trees were red and shiny. For some reason, there was a hint of evil blood color. However, no one was paying attention to this scene at the moment. There were thousands of warriors in Red Maple Valley, and they were all elites from various forces. As the initiator, Lu Jianhong welcomed them with a smile at the entrance of the valley. However, the others did not realize that Lu Jianhong's smile contained a hint of helplessness and coldness. At this moment, a middle-aged warrior led a group of disciples into Red Maple Valley. He even greeted Lu Jianhong, who was at the entrance of the valley. Brother Lu, we haven't seen each other for many years. I didn't expect you to have stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. This is really a cause for celebration. This time, with you leading the alliance, we will definitely catch all the villains of the Demon Dao in one fell swoop. Lu Jianhong smiled and said, Clan Master son, you flatter me. If I wasn't forced, I wouldn't want to stand out and become enemies with the entire Hidden Devil clan. After all, they are a huge force. Clan Master Sun snorted and said, What Hidden Devil clan? They are just a bunch of rats that bully the weak and fear the strong. Back then, It was not only our ancestors who participated in the annihilation of the Demon Dao Alliance in Nine Heaven Mountain. There was also the Great Light Temple and Sword King City. How are they going to take revenge on those people? They only know how to pick on the weak. After complaining for a while, Clan Master Sun walked into the valley. At this moment, a few more groups of warriors came. Among them, there were warriors from Eastern Qi who knew Lu Jianhong. After chatting for a while, someone asked curiously, "Clan Master Lu, where are your younger brother Lu Jianyuan and your son? Why don't I see them?" Lu Jianhong revealed an unnatural smile and said, "They're all guarding the Red Leaf Manor. I'm also afraid of being ambushed by the Yinma clan, so I've placed a large portion of my forces to guard the manor." When the others heard what Lu Jianhong said, they did not suspect anything. Moreover, some people noticed that the disciples of the Red Leaves Manor seemed to be much stronger than before. Moreover, most of them were unfamiliar faces. However, no one asked about this. If they asked about this matter, it would seem like they couldn't bear to see the Red Leaf Manor doing well, and couldn't bear to see the Red Leaf Manor becoming stronger. Of course, there were quite a few people who had this kind of mentality. It was true that the Red Leaf Manor was strong, but among so many forces, there were still some forces that were not weaker than the Red Leaf Manor. When Lu Jianhong's news came out, they began to regret it. Why didn't they think of such a good idea? Not only could they get through the crisis, but they could also accumulate fame and eventually become the leader of the alliance. The benefits were simply unimaginable. It was a pity that this kind of thing was only useful to the initiator. If they still used this method, they would be making a fool of themselves by imitating others. Moreover, the enemy was right in front of them. If they were to fight amongst themselves over such a matter, they would be too stupid. However, although they wouldn't fight amongst themselves, they were still very interested in the distribution of power and benefits during the alliance. Feeling that most of the people had arrived, Lu Jianhong directly walked up to the highest platform in the center of the Red Maple Valley. He was immediately surrounded by warriors who had rushed over from various places. Looking at the people around him, Lu Jianhong said in a deep voice, "Everyone, the Yinma clan has already risen again. They want to take revenge for the enmity from 300 years ago. Many of the forces that were born in the same place as us have already fallen into the hands of the Yinma clan. Now that I've gathered everyone here, I want to gather everyone's strength to get through this calamity together. 300 years ago, we joined forces to kill the Nine Heaven Mountain Demon Alliance. Now we can also join forces to get through this calamity. I know that everyone must have used your connections to seek help from those large sections. However, it's better to rely on ourselves than to rely on others. Instead of waiting for others to save us, it's better for us to save ourselves." As soon as he finished speaking, someone below immediately shouted, "Well said." However, before Lu Jianhong could echo, an old man below stood up and said calmly, "Manor Master Lu is right. It's better to rely on ourselves than to rely on others. Others may not say anything, but I, an old man, am in favor of this alliance." Seeing that the old man had stepped forward, the people around him immediately made way for him, their eyes filled with respect. Among the group of people from 300 years ago, there were very few who could step into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. Lu Jianhong was the only one who was in his prime. However, there were other old martial Dao Grandmasters too. The current patriarch of the northern Yanyang clan fort, Yang Guyuan, was one of them. However, this Yang clan patriarch was really old. He had not appeared in the pugilistic world for more than 10 years. To be precise, even in the Yang clan fort, not many disciples had seen him. The Yang clan patriarch had always been in closed-door training, but it was not for cultivation. Instead, he wanted to preserve his limited lifespan by nourishing his qi and blood. If not for the fact that this matter concerned the safety of the Yang clan fort, the Yang clan patriarch would definitely not show up. Among the people present, in terms of strength, Lu Jianhong, who was in his prime, was definitely the strongest. However, in terms of experience, no one present could compare to the Yang clan patriarch. Everyone had to address him as senior. At this moment, Lu Jianhong also cupped his hands at the Yang clan patriarch and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Yang." Just as Lu Jianhong was about to continue speaking, the Yang clan patriarch suddenly waved his hand and said, "Hold on, Manor Master Lu. Can you give me some time to answer some of my questions?" Lu Jianhong frowned slightly, then said, "Senior Yang, please speak." The Yang clan patriarch said slowly, "Manor Master Lu, it's a good thing that you want to form an alliance to resist the Hidden Devil clan. However, an alliance cannot be formed with just a few words. There are many things that need to be discussed. For example, since this is an alliance, there naturally needs to be an alliance leader. The alliance leader needs to deploy forces and be fair. Moreover, the alliance cannot be decided by the alliance leader alone. It also needs other people to help deploy and make some decisions. Isn't that right?" As soon as the Yang clan patriarch finished speaking, there was a sudden silence. Everyone was experienced in the pugilistic world, and there were no fools among them. They easily understood the unspoken meaning in the Yang clan patriarch's words. He wanted to distribute power. It was true that the alliance was proposed by Lu Jianhong. It was fine if he wanted to be the alliance leader, but this alliance was not something that he could decide alone. With the Yang clan patriarch's status, if he joined the alliance, would he still listen to the orders of a junior like him? He would definitely have to share some of the power. What about the other people who were close to Lu Jianhong in terms of strength and fame? Of course, they also wanted some power. In short, just as the Yang clan patriarch had said, the alliance was a very complicated matter. It was not something that could be decided with just a few words. With benefits in front of them, even if danger was not far from them, this group of people's hearts were still not united. Lu Jianhong looked at the crowd below expressionlessly. He sneered in his heart. At the same time, he felt very sad. Previously, he felt a little apologetic that he could not get over this hurdle. However, now that he saw this group of people, Lu Jianhong suddenly thought it through. With the strength of Lin Yi and the entire Hidden Devil clan, it was simply a piece of cake to deal with this group of people who were like a plate of loose sand. At this time, they were still scheming, fighting for power, and reaping benefits for themselves. If this group of people did not die, who would? Everyone looked at Lu Jianhong standing on the stage without saying a word. Everyone was puzzled. What did Lu Jianhong mean by this? The Yang clan patriarch also frowned and said, "Manor Master Lu, tell us, what exactly are you thinking? Even if you don't agree with this old man's opinion, you have to come up with a plan." Everyone present thought that Lu Jianhong did not want others to share his power as the alliance leader, which was why he was angry. However, Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "Are you ready?" Everyone present was instantly stunned. What was ready? What did they prepare? "I've been ready for a long time. I just wanted to let you see the true colors of this group of people. Manor Master Lu, I've said it before. The so-called good reputation and infamy are actually not important. Prestige is the most important. If you had the ability to crush them today, would this group of idiots dare to openly oppose you and want to share your power?" As the voice spread, Chu Xiu walked up the stage step by step from the back. Suddenly, there was a dead silence. Everyone looked at Chu Xiu, their eyes filled with extreme shock and fear. In West Chu, Chu Xiu had already killed quite a number of people, and the news had already spread. Of course, they knew what kind of image Lin Yi of the Hidden Devil clan had. In the end, Lin Yi, who should have been in West Chu, appeared here and stood openly with Lu Jianhong. Even an idiot would know what exactly had happened. The Yang clan patriarch pointed at Lu Jianhong while trembling and scolded angrily. "Lu Jianhong, you actually colluded with the demonic path to frame us. Damn it. Damn it. You don't deserve to be a son." The others had never expected that Lu Jianhong, the manor master of Red Leaves Manor, who was also the most powerful among them, would actually collude with the demonic path to frame them. Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "I was forced to do so." Everyone present didn't care so much and started scolding Lu Jianhong. At this moment, Chu Xiu struck out with his palm and hit Lu Jianhong's back. In an instant, Lu Jianhong fell to the ground, lifeless. Everyone present was stunned. Didn't this guy collude with the demonic path? Why was he killed too? Chu Xiu spread out his hands and said, "The demonic path doesn't like traitors either. I just lied to him. Since you all hate him so much, I'll send you down now. When you're down there, you can continue to seek revenge from him. Chapter 605. In the Red Maple Valley, the red leaves were like fire, and the murderous intent soared to the heavens. Chushio had already set up a killing array here in advance. The warriors who entered the Red Maple Valley were like turtles in a jar, and no one could escape. As Chushio waved his hand, the entire Red Maple Valley lit up with the radiance of the array. The disciples of the Red Leaf Manor who had received the crowd earlier also displayed an extremely powerful aura. They guarded the surroundings to prevent the crowd from escaping. The elites of the Inma clan were not weak, and there were many warriors who were good at all kinds of miscellaneous things, such as array formations. Although the killing array they had set up was not very strong, it was at least enough to kill warriors who were below the unity of heaven and man realm. As the array revolved, a five-colored radiance soared to the heavens. There were raging flames burning the sky, saber light scattering, and water poison entering the body. This was a standard 5 elements killing array. Its power wasn't amazing, but it wasn't weak either. Most importantly, this array didn't have too many weaknesses. Furthermore, it had 5 array cores. If you broke one of them, the other 4 would continue to operate. The moment the array was activated, there was a burst of shrill cries. Some of the weaker warriors were killed on the spot by this killing array. At this moment, the Yang family's patriarch shouted, "Don't run around. Gather together and rush towards the entrance of the valley. We can only survive if we rush out." The Yang family's patriarch could be considered an experienced man. He did not panic in the face of danger, and immediately thought of the most suitable way to deal with it. However, Chushio had set it up for so long. If they were to scatter just like that, wouldn't it be a joke? At the entrance of the valley, Zhao Qingping was holding the devil's spear, while Luo Sansong was holding the ghost head beheading blade. There were more than 20 people behind them, all of whom were unity of heaven and man realm warriors. It could be said that Chushio's most elite men were here. After Chushio dealt with Lu Jianhong, he asked Zhao Qingping to rush to Eastern Qi. After seeing Lin Ye's arrangements in Eastern Qi, Zhao Qingping had to admit that Senior Wei had made the right choice in choosing Lin Yi. If it were him, Zhao Qingping would only think of ways to increase the speed of his attacks. He would still have to exterminate the sects one by one. He estimated that before he could even finish off 1/3 of the sects, the righteous sects would intervene. Now, with Lin Ye's plan, almost everyone on the list had gathered in Maple Valley, waiting to be captured in one fell swoop. Chushio walked towards the crowd step by step. His hands formed seals, and his psychic energy turned into zither music that drifted away. At the moment when the Gangqi defense failed, the Yang family old ancestor frantically condensed the little blood essence in his body, transforming it into boundless blood qi in an attempt to intercept the arrow, but it still failed. The soul-destroying arrow pierced his body, and he let out a painful cry. For martial artists who did not know spiritual secret techniques, they would only simply use the majestic power of qi and blood to resist the attack of the opponent's spirit secret technique. Although the effect was uncertain, it still had a certain effect. However, for the current Yang family old ancestor, his own qi and blood had already declined. It was simply wishful thinking to use that pitiful qi and blood to resist Chushio's soul-destroying arrow. The invisible arrow penetrated the Yang family old ancestor's mind, and his psychic force suddenly burst out. In an instant, the Yang family old ancestor's mouth and nose were bleeding, and his aura was extremely weak. His body involuntarily fell to the ground. Chushio stepped out, and with a punch, he used the heaven-extinguishing earth-annihilating oblivion-killing fist to the extreme. At this time, the Red Maple Valley was full of blood and killing intent. Using the heaven-extinguishing earth-annihilating oblivion-killing fist in this situation, its power was 3 times stronger than usual. This fist technique was most suitable to be used in a military formation. In a military formation overflowing with killing intent, the Oblivion Killing Fist could affect the entire battlefield's killing intent, and its power would even increase exponentially. At this time, as Chushio blasted out his fist, the killing intent swept out. directly condensing into a huge tornado in midair, falling toward the Yang family old ancestor. The power of Chu Xiu's punch had exceeded the explosive power of some martial Dao Grand Masters. The Yang family old ancestor could not care about his internal injuries. He spat out a mouthful of blood and burned the last trace of his blood essence. Drawing on the power of heaven and earth, he struck out with a palm that was like the vast sea, and the power was not weak. The killing fist shook the vast sea of Gang Qi, and the Yang family old ancestor's figure staggered back step by step. In the end, both his arms were directly shattered, and his body flew out. But before he landed, a fist had already pierced through his entire chest. Chu Xiu threw the Yang family old ancestor's body aside, and casually flicked the blood on his hand. This was probably the weakest martial Dao Grand Master Chu Xiu had ever killed. It was simply too weak, so weak that it was beyond Chu Xiu's imagination. In order to survive until now, the Yang family old ancestor had used some unknown method to only nourish his own blood essence around his heart meridian, maintaining the most basic vitality. So at this time, when it came to a life and death battle, not only was his physical body declining, even his flesh and meridians had actually withered, and his explosive power was even weaker than some of the stronger unity of heaven and man realm martial artists. Just for the sake of living for a dozen more years, he had turned himself into something that was neither a human nor a ghost. He could only hide in a secluded room and live out his ignoble existence. Chu Xiu simply couldn't understand such actions. What was the difference between living like this and being dead? Following Chu Xiu's killing of the Yang family patriarch, the other cultivators present suffered an even greater defeat. They seemed to have lost all will to fight, only wanting to escape. However, the result was another round of slaughter. After a while, Zhao Qingping and Luo Sansong walked over with blood all over their bodies. Although the two of them looked tired, they were much more energetic. Luo Sansong held the ghost head beheading blade and laughed. Awesome! Previously, I was so aggrieved down there every day. Today, I finally had a good time killing. At this time, whether it was Luo Sansong, Zhao Qingping, or the other martial artists of the Yinma clan, they could be said to be truly convinced by Chu Xiu. Sometimes, even if you use thousands of tricks, it would not be as effective as real strength. If anyone stood in Chu Xiu's position, they would not be able to complete the task so beautifully. Moreover, they had also seen Chu Xiu's real strength. Lu Jianhong, a martial Dao Grand Master in his prime, was easily defeated by Chu Xiu, and an old martial Dao Grand Master like the Yang family old ancestor could not even last a few moves in Chu Xiu's hands. He was easily killed like a baby. At this moment, don't bother about seniority. In the face of absolute strength, seniority was simply a joke. Zhao Qingping cupped his fists respectfully at Chu Xiu and said, Sir, 99% of the martial artists who entered Red Maple Valley have been killed. Only a few escaped using some strange methods. Should we chase after them? Chu Xiu shook his head and said, There's no need to chase after them. It doesn't matter if a few escaped. Wei Shuya only said to annihilate those forces for revenge, but he did not say to capture them all in one go. Naturally, there was no need to be so detailed. Lu Jianhong also stood up at this time. He lowered his head and walked to Chu Xiu's side in a daze. Chu Xiu promised Lu Jianhong to put on a show with him. Now that someone had escaped, he would naturally bring back the news of Lu Jianhong's death. Manor Lord Lu, do you regret it? Chu Xiu asked without turning his head. Lu Jianhong shook his head and said, I don't regret it. Since I have embarked on this path, there is no chance for me to regret it. Lu Jianhong is already dead. From now on, Red Leaf Manor has nothing to do with me. The only one alive now is the hidden demon faction's swordsman Lu Hongya. After experiencing this, Lu Jianhong knew it should be said that Lu Hongya's state of mind had undergone an earth-shattering change. Just as he said, Lu Jianhong was already dead, and the only one alive was Lu Hongya. As for whether Lu Jianhong would hate him in his heart, Chu Xiu was not worried at all. As long as he could ensure that his strength would always suppress the other party, Chu Xiu was not afraid of anyone's betrayal. Chapter 606. Outside the Red Leaf Valley, it was quiet. However, even after a few days, the pungent smell of blood still lingered in the air. Many people had gathered outside the valley. There were Su Xing from the Great Light Temple, warriors from the Chunyang Dao sect and the True Martial Arts sect, as well as people from the Xiahou clan, the Shangshuaying clan, and other large Eastern Qi sections. It had been a few days since the battle at the Red Maple Valley. It was not that Su Xing and the others were slow, but that they had not expected Chu Xiu to do such a thing. They had thought that when Lu Jianhong had gathered everyone in the Red Maple Valley to form an alliance, Lin Yi would still be wandering around the land of West Chu with his men. They had not expected that everything had been a trap from the beginning. Standing in front of the valley, Su Xing said with a dark expression, "We're too late. No, I should say that we've all been fooled." Everyone present had ugly expressions on their faces. They had indeed been fooled. And they had been fooled very badly. The large sects had not made a move at the beginning because the commotion that Chu Xiu had caused was very small. It was not a big deal for a young disciple to bring more than 20 people to seek revenge on those small forces. They had only thought that the Yinma clan was looking for someone to vent their anger on. In the end, who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, Lin Yi would actually do such a big thing while they had not made a decision? In one night, the family heads, sect leaders, and other elites of dozens of forces had been annihilated. Although these forces still had some bloodline descendants, without these elites, the forces themselves had been crippled. Everyone else looked gloomy, especially the martial arts forces in the land of Eastern Qi. Because they had not been paying attention, Lin Yi had done such a big thing right under their noses. He had killed so many people, which was a great humiliation to them. Let's go in and take a look. An old monk with white hair and beard sighed and recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra, as if he was helping those who had been killed to ascend to the afterlife. This person was the eminent monk of the Subodhi monastery, Siddhartha. Although he was not famous in the Jianghu, as long as he was a grandmaster from the Subodhi monastery, he would not be a weakling. There were still a few shivering warriors in front of them. They were all survivors who had escaped from Red Maple Valley. If it weren't for them, no one would have known that such a big thing had happened in Red Maple Valley. The group stepped into Red Maple Valley with those people, and the pungent smell of blood instantly assaulted their nostrils, causing their expressions to become even more unsightly. Su Xing's expression was unsightly as he gazed at the corpses that covered the ground. How exactly did Lin Yi do it? There are over 1,000 experts here. Even if they were all pigs, it's impossible to kill them all so quickly, right? One of the survivors said in a sobbing tone. It's that bastard Lu Jianhong. He had long surrendered to the Hidden Devil clan. After luring us here, he set up a killing formation and ambushed a large number of experts to kill us. Senior Yang of the Yang clan fortress was killed before he could even block 3 moves from Lin Yi. Fortunately, I had a burrowing formation board left behind by my ancestor, so I was lucky enough to escape with my life. Master Su Xing, you have to seek justice for us. Upon hearing this, everyone's expressions changed slightly. Although he was just an old martial Dao grandmaster, it was already shocking enough to kill him in 3 moves. Lin Ye's strength was indeed worthy of his ranking on the Longhu list. Su Xing snorted coldly. A demon who surrendered to the demonic Dao. This Lu Jianhong deserves to be killed more than those from the demonic Dao. At this moment, a warrior wearing a black robe with cloud patterns shook his head and said, "There's no need to kill him. Lu Jianhong is already dead. He was killed by Lin Yi. Actually, the Shangshuaying clan has already investigated this matter. The Red Leaf Manor is also a victim. Lin Yi had long targeted the Red Leaf Manor and Lu Jianhong. He took down the Red Leaf Manor at lightning speed and threatened Lu Jianhong to help Lin Yi set up the trap with the lives of all the Red Leaf Manor disciples. However, in the end Lin Yi still lied to him and killed him at the last moment." Su Xing snorted coldly and said, "If he didn't agree, only his family would have suffered. In the end he took the side of the evildoer, causing dozens of forces and thousands of people to die. Even if he's dead, he's still an accomplice." Most of the people present scoffed at Su Xing's idea. The monks from the Great Light Temple were just saying things that were easier said than done. In fact, from their point of view, it was easy for them to understand Lu Jianhong. The lives of one's family were in the hands of the other party. Unless it was a saint who cut off his own flesh to feed the eagles, almost everyone would choose the latter. Moreover, looking at the scene before them, apart from remaining silent, there was nothing else they could do. Although they all belonged to the righteous side of the martial arts circle, in reality, there was no alliance in the righteous martial arts circle. They had their own grudges, and it was impossible for them to join forces to find trouble with the Hidden Devil clan, because of this matter. Previously, their plan was actually very simple. If the Hidden Devil clan killed too many people, they would come forward to warn them so that they would restrain themselves. The alliance that Lu Jianhong organized was not weak, so they would come forward to befriend them and maintain a certain level of contact with them. In the end, all the people were dead and Lin Yi even went on a killing spree in the Red Maple Valley. They were just like spectators. It was already too late to do anything. The middle-aged man from the Shangshuaying clan was the first to cough and say, "This matter is very serious. I need to report it to the clan leader." With that, the man from the Shangshuaying clan immediately left. The stance of the 9 superclans was very ambiguous. Regardless of whether they were righteous or demonic, most of them were thinking about their own interests. Now that everyone was dead, it did not affect the interests of the Ying clan. Of course, he did not want to stay any longer. When the others saw the attitude of the Shangshuaying clan, they also found various reasons to turn around and leave. The people who died had nothing to do with them. It was not worthwhile for them to fight against the Hidden Devil clan to avenge them. They would only act without hesitation when the Hidden Devil clan touched their interests. Moreover, as Su Yun had said, the most alarming thing in the entire diabolism was not the Hidden Devil clan, which had always been hiding in the dark. It was the moon-worshipping cult. Ever since the great battle between the righteous and demonic on Mount Fuyu, the moon-worshipping cult had always shown an unparalleled attitude. It even somewhat suppressed the power of the Taoist master mansion in West Chu. It could be said to be the #1 sect in the diabolism. Although the moon-worshipping cult had not developed to the level of the Kunlun devil cult in the past, it was enough to make the righteous martial arts circle vigilant. Therefore, for some experts in the righteous martial arts circle with long-term knowledge, they would not take the initiative to target the Hidden Devil clan. It was precisely because of the existence of the Hidden Devil clan that the moon-worshipping cult could not dominate the entire diabolism. Otherwise, without internal strife, the diabolism would be even more terrifying. Sabodhi Monastery's Siddhartha sat on the ground and sent off the warriors who had died in Red Maple Valley. 2 older disciples of Sabodhi Monastery followed behind him and tidied up the corpses. Only Su Xing did not leave. His expression was terrifyingly gloomy. If someone else had been the mastermind, Su Xing would have temporarily put everything aside even if he was furious. He would have returned to the Great Light Temple to report to Su Yun and the others first. However, after hearing that Lin Yi was the leader of this group of people, Su Xing did not want to go back so soon. In Xiaofan Heaven, he, a martial arts master who had been famous for a long time, had been defeated by a junior like Lin Yi. This was a great humiliation for Su Xing. He had always wanted to find an opportunity to take revenge. Su Xing turned his gaze to the few survivors from before and said in a deep voice, "Do you know if there are any forces that did not participate in Red Maple Valley's alliance and were spared?" The few people looked at each other and nodded. There are 2 or 3 forces that did not come. They were either too far away and could not make it in time, or they had the protection of a large sect and thought that they would be safe. Su Xing waved his hand and said, "That's good. Take me to those forces." Since Lin Yi is going to take revenge for what happened 300 years ago, he will definitely not let these few surviving forces go. When they heard that Su Xing wanted to take the initiative to look for Lin Yi, they immediately panicked. Actually, they were all in favor of Su Xing looking for Lin Yi. After all, Su Xing was taking revenge for them. However, after experiencing the incident at Red Maple Valley, Lin Yi was like a demon to them. They really didn't want to face that demon again. Su Xing could not help but frown when he saw their expressions. "What's wrong? You guys are not willing to go? Don't you want to take revenge for your sect's elders?" When they felt the violent aura from Su Xing, they laughed bitterly and said, "We are willing." Looking at Su Xing's attitude, if they dared to say that they were not willing, Su Xing might do something. At this moment, the disciples who came with Su Xing pulled him back. Uncle Master Su Yin only asked us to come and intimidate the Hidden Devil clan. He didn't say that we should take the initiative to attack them. Before they came, Su Yin had already said that if Lin Yi took the initiative to attack after the people from the Great Light Temple arrived, they would naturally attack as well. However, they were too late and the people were already dead. If they attacked Lin Yi, apart from provoking a conflict between the Great Light Temple and the Hidden Devil clan, what else was there? However, it was obvious that Su Xing could not bear to listen to these things. He snorted coldly and said, Senior brother Su Yin also did not say that I am not allowed to attack the Hidden Devil clan. Don't be noisy. Lin Yi killed thousands of people in Red Maple Valley. He is extremely ruthless. If the Great Light Temple does not care about this, who will? You don't have to go. Go back and report what happened here to the temple. I will take people to surround Lin Yi. When he finished speaking, Su Xing immediately left with those people. He did not give the disciples of the Great Light Temple a chance to speak again. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.